When you have a problem or an issue, you probably talk to people about it, right? You've got friends, you've got family. You might discuss it maybe even with a coworker. But sometimes what you really need to do is to talk to a lawyer about it. But how much is that talk going to cost? How does free sound? Because tomorrow, Friday, March the 7th, lawyers from all across the state are holding a free call-in event, and you can talk to one of them one-on-one. Lawyers like the two that are joining us today will be answering your calls. Theodora Vaporis is an estate attorney. Rainier Smith handles patents and trademarks and intellectual property. Both are with Tuggle Duggins here in Greensboro, and so you've been part of this call-in event for years. So how does it go? People want to know, what does that mean when I call in tomorrow?
So tomorrow they'll call in and they'll be put in a queue. There'll be somebody there that will find out what the subject matter is that they want to talk about, and they'll make sure it gets to the right lawyer.
Right, because not every lawyer handles every single thing.
So we have lawyers all across the state in all areas.
Okay, so whatever your question is, there's a lawyer to help you with the information. For example, let's talk about this. All you small business folks or people with side hustles, you might be asking this question here. We're going to put it up. What happens if you want someone to protect your idea or your brand, especially if you're just starting out? How can someone protect their idea or their brand? Rainier?
That's a great question. So for patents, time is critical. In the United States, we operate on a first-to-file system. So the first person to file the patent application gets the rights to it, not necessarily the first person to invent. For trademarks, a mentor of mine used to always say, trademarks go with trade. So you have a certain level of common law trademark rights once you start using a brand, a name, a slogan in commerce. In order to enforce those rights and make them a little bit stronger, you want to get that national federal registration with the United States Trademark Office. For copyrights, same thing. Once you register your copyright with the United States Copyright Office, those enforcement rights are enhanced, and it makes enforcement a little easier.
So you need to do those things. You need to trademark it or copyright it or patent it, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to follow up with that, so many businesses out there with social media, what it is, there are common intellectual property issues. So we've got two questions that we can bring up that people might have an issue with, and let's take a look at that. What if someone else is using my business name? And then what happens if someone copies your photos? What can you do?
Absolutely. So with respect to the use of your business name, having a federal registration protects you nationwide. If you don't have that federal registration, like I mentioned, you would have common law rights. Those common law rights are geographic to where you're currently doing business. In order to enforce outside of where you're geographically using your business name, you would need that federal registration. You can send a cease and desist, and having that federal registration is a little bit of a better tool to enforce.
Yeah, not enough to just call them up and say, hey, stop using my pictures.
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
All right. Theodora, let's talk about estate planning. Very common topic that folks talk about, but maybe really don't know about, and that is power of attorney. What is it and why do we need it?
So a power of attorney is a document that you sign that allows somebody else to stand in your shoes financially and make financial decisions for you, either because you don't want to do that yourself or because you're incompetent down the road. That's a document that is really powerful, and so we caution people to be very careful when they're signing one. Make sure that you are actually counseled on it. Don't pull a form off the internet, because you want to make sure that the powers you are giving are appropriate. You might give somebody a broad gifting power, and they can gift assets to themselves. You want to make sure that you're counseled on whether or not they should be compensated in that role. So it's a really good tool to have if something should happen to you down the road, but the problem is abuse. So pick your person carefully. Don't pick somebody who doesn't make good financial decisions themselves,
right, okay.
Who has a spouse that spends too much or spends too much themselves.
And so some people would say, well, I only need a power of attorney if I'm older. But really, a car accident or anything like that could happen at any time. You need someone who can actually pay bills and do things.
I've had the 40-year-old who had a little too much to drink one night and ended up with his car in a wall, and he was disabled from there on. Couldn't do it. Somebody had to step in. He didn't have a power of attorney. That required a guardianship then.
Okay. All right, so we've got about a little bit more than a minute. I want to talk about what's online and all the access that people have. There's an e-court system, and Guilford County is part of that.
Right. So now about half the counties, I think, in North Carolina are on, and the rest are all coming, every few months. And it's going to make us more efficient. It's supposed to be a good thing. We're all still getting used to it. But the one thing I think people should know now is that public is really public. It used to be you have to go to courthouse and kind of nosy around if you wanted to see something in somebody's file. Now, from the privacy of your home, you can really see a lot about what's in estate files, for example. There's some things that are confidential and the court kind of puts aside, and so they can't be seen, but you can see a lot.
Okay, and then I think a lot of people don't know that if you have a will, it's not always just held at the courthouse. It actually has to be filed by someone after your death.
Right, filed for probate, and then the administration can start. And I think we're probably going to see, because of all of this access to the open records at the court, we're going to see even more revocable trusts established going forward, because people aren't going to want that exposure.
Right, because when you have a will, that means everybody gets to see everything that's in the will.
Right, they see the inventory, they see the accounts that the deceased person had, so yeah. But
And then who it's going
trust-
to and everything like that.
All of
Okay,
that.
all right, well, we thank you both.
You're welcome.
We don't want you to miss your chance to talk to a lawyer for free. It's tomorrow. I want you to take out your phone because you're going to need to take a screenshot of this. The For All Lawyers On Call event is Friday, 10 until 7. Make sure that you have the number for your area to call. You see them listed there on the left-hand side. Again, lawyers are doing this all over the state, so the call-in number for each section of the state is a little different. The phone lines are going to be open from 10 until 7. You'll be able to find this information in the Who Wants to Know section as well.